She clutched the pen in her trembling hand, staring blankly at the divorce papers laid out before her. The room glittered with Christmas lights, the kind that sparkled like tiny stars, but none of the joy of the season reached her heart. She could hear the muffled laughter and music from the party around her, the clinking of glasses and cheerful conversations that now felt like they were taking place in a distant, unreachable world. Her chest tightened, tears welling up in her eyes. She could barely focus on the words in front of her, final divorce decree. The paper seemed heavier than it should, pressing down on her soul. The pen felt like a weapon, and yet she had no choice. It was time to sign. Her mind was spinning, replaying the past few months, the past few years even. She remembered the whirlwind romance, the excitement, the feeling of being swept off her feet. She had fallen in love with the charm, the laughter, the promises whispered in quiet moments. But as time went on, the love she thought she had was overshadowed by secrets, by absences, by questions she never dared to ask. She had known things were wrong, but she had never imagined that the truth could be this cruel. Tears ran down her cheeks as she finally put pen to paper. The ink spread across the page, as if staining her heart. She didn't look up. She didn't want anyone to see the tears streaming down her face. The room seemed to shrink around her, and for a moment, she felt utterly alone, even amidst the crowd of celebrating faces. She folded the papers carefully and tucked them into the envelope provided. Her hands shook so violently that she almost dropped it. She walked toward the receptionist, trying to maintain composure, but every step felt like walking through quicksand. As she handed over the envelope, the receptionist gave her a polite smile, unaware of the storm raging inside her. She nodded, muttering a quiet, "Thank you," but her voice barely carried over the hum of the party. She stepped back into the hall, trying to breathe, trying to regain herself, but the laughter, the music, the clinking glasses, it all seemed wrong now. The holiday cheer, the tinsel, the sparkling decorations, it was mocking her pain. She wanted to disappear, to vanish from this world where she had thought she had found love. Her thoughts turned to him, the man she had once trusted with her heart. She had married him, believing she knew him, believing in their future together. And now, she realized she didn't know him at all. The truth hit her like a hammer. He was not the man she had married. He was someone else entirely, someone she could never have imagined, someone whose life was completely separate from hers. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't answer. It could wait. Everything could wait. She needed a moment to process the shock, to let herself feel the betrayal, the heartbreak, the humiliation. She walked toward the balcony, seeking the cold night air, the silence that would allow her to think. The city lights glittered below, a million points of light that did nothing to warm her freezing heart. And then it happened. A friend of a friend, someone she had barely met at the party, approached her. He smiled awkwardly, sensing her distress. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. He nodded, giving her a moment, and then asked softly, "Do you want to sit for a while?" She nodded, grateful for the small kindness. He guided her to a quiet corner, away from the crowd, where she could gather her thoughts. She sank into a chair, hugging herself as if to hold her broken pieces together. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. She thought back to their wedding day, the joy she had felt, the hope. And now, it all seemed like a cruel joke. How could she have been so blind? How could she have missed the signs? And then the truth hit her fully, finally, terrifyingly. She had been married to a billionaire, and she hadn't known it. Her heart raced. How could she have missed it? The luxurious trips, the private gifts, the secretive calls, the wealth he had always kept hidden from her. It was all starting to make sense, and yet it felt unreal. Her life had been intertwined with someone whose world she had never seen, a world so different from her own. The reality was almost too much to bear. She felt foolish, naive, manipulated. The tears came faster now, unstoppable, as she realized that the man she had loved had built his life around deception. She wanted to scream, to shout, to throw the world off its axis. She wanted to demand answers, to confront him, to make him explain why he had hidden everything. But even as the anger flared, there was a deep sadness that pulled at her, a grief for the loss of a life she had imagined but would never have. The life of a simple, happy couple, of love built on trust, it was gone now, shattered by lies and secrets. The party continued inside, oblivious to her pain. People laughed, danced, toasted with champagne, celebrating the season, celebrating life. And she felt like a ghost, floating through a world that no longer belonged to her. She thought about the moments they had shared, the promises made, the dreams whispered late at night. Were they all lies? Had she been living in a carefully constructed illusion all this time? The thought made her shiver. Then she remembered the documents she had just signed. The divorce was final. There was no turning back, no reconciliation, no chance to salvage the pieces. It was done. She had made the choice, however painful, to walk away, to reclaim her life from someone who had hidden the truth from her. The weight of that decision pressed down on her chest, heavy and suffocating, yet somehow liberating. She was free, finally free, though freedom felt like ashes in her mouth. Her phone buzzed again, insistently this time. She glanced at the screen and froze. It was a message from him. Her hands trembled as she opened it, unsure if she wanted to read it or not. The message was short, almost casual. I know what you've done. We need to talk. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't know whether to feel anger or fear, confusion or curiosity. She typed a reply, then deleted it. She couldn't trust herself to respond yet. The night wore on, and the party began to wind down. Guests said their goodbyes, the laughter fading, leaving a hollow silence in its place. She stayed on the balcony, staring at the night sky, watching snowflakes drift lazily down, melting as they touched the cold city streets. There was a strange beauty in it, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, life continued, indifferent to her pain, yet strangely comforting. Hours passed. The city below seemed to sleep, the world quieting around her. She wrapped herself in her coat, shivering not from the cold but from the weight of the realization that her life had changed forever. She had lost a husband she thought she knew, discovered a wealth and world she had never seen, and yet in the midst of it all, she had found something precious, herself. For the first time in years, she felt the faintest stirrings of hope, fragile but real. The next day, she began to unravel the details. Friends reached out, curious, concerned, and she slowly explained what had happened. They listened, some in shock, others in disbelief. She found solace in their support, in their reminders that she was not alone, that she had the strength to move forward. The shock of the revelation, the billionaire she had married, the life she had never known, still lingered, but she began to see it as a strange gift in disguise. It was a reminder that truth, no matter how painful, was always better than a lie. She thought about the man she had once loved and realized something profound. The person he had been was not her problem. Her problem had been the deception, the secrecy, the lies that had built a barrier between them. She couldn't change him, and she couldn't change the past, but she could change her own future. That realization gave her a strange, quiet strength. Weeks passed. She threw herself into her work, her passions, her friendships. The divorce papers, once a symbol of heartbreak, became a symbol of her new beginning. She learned to laugh again, cautiously at first, then with abandon. She traveled, explored new opportunities, discovered new sides of herself that had been buried under the weight of betrayal and sorrow. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years, free to be herself, untethered from the illusions of her past. And then, one evening, as the first snow of the next winter fell softly around the city, she stood by her window, sipping a cup of tea, thinking about everything she had been through. The tears still came sometimes, unexpected, but they were no longer tears of helplessness. They were tears of growth, of resilience, of the knowledge that she had survived something extraordinary and come out stronger. Life had taught her a hard lesson. Love could be blind, wealth could be hidden, and people could be deceptive. But it had also taught her that she was stronger than she had ever imagined, that she could endure heartbreak and betrayal and still emerge whole. She smiled to herself, a quiet, knowing smile. The party, the tears, the divorce, they were all behind her now. Ahead lay a life of possibilities, of honesty, of freedom. She put down her tea, wrapped herself in a warm blanket, and looked out at the snow-covered streets. She had signed her divorce papers at a Christmas party, yes, and she had cried, yes. But she had also discovered her own strength, her own worth, and the truth of who she was. And in that moment, She realized that perhaps this unexpected journey, this painful awakening, was the greatest gift of all.